right? Because a lot of people are like, just intuitively eat when you're hungry.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it. And we have to uncover all the other stuff before we can even do that. But just since the 1950s, there has been really dramatic changes to our food supply. And you truly just can't get everything you need with food alone anymore. That even if you eat the most picture perfect diet that you possibly can, it's not going to give you all the nutrients that you need, right? Because you're going to do those things. And then you have this amazing sense of accomplishment. I got the important things done. And then here's the magic.
Today I'm joined by Juniper Devecis, author of Vibrant, Juicy Life, A Woman's Journey to Conquer Food Cravings, Feel Better, and Live Bigger. Juniper is a dietitian with her master's in nutritional biochemistry, but her path led her beyond food science into deep emotional and energetic roots of health, especially for women dealing with food struggles, weight, and self-worth. Today we are talking about how food cravings are rarely just about food and how healing goes far deeper than willpower.
Hello.
Hey, Juniper, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I listened to the intro to your book this morning, and I really related to it, to be honest. That was a good intro.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I mean, that's why I wrote it as my journey, because I think, so, you know what I mean? A lot of people struggle with all of it, right? Finding our worth and being overwhelmed. And how do I find balance? And now all the rest of it. How do I nourish myself?
I wanted to ask you, for those who may be new to your work, what inspired you to write Vibrancy, Juicy Life, and what's the core message behind it?
Is really about, so for so much of my life, I mean, I was joyous, I worked hard, but I didn't even realize that I was numbing all my emotions down by emotional eating. And I was I was like so scared of feeling my emotions that I would eat. And I just assumed, okay, I have trouble controlling my food. So when I went through this whole personal journey and learned to actually hold my feelings, feel my feelings on the other side, right? Once you get through the very short period of fear and sorrow and whatever is under there, on the other side is so much depth and richness. So that's what it's about. It's about, on the other side, like getting through all that fear and having more joy and authenticity, I think, in life. And that's what brings the vibrancy.
Yeah, I completely agree. The solution is to like go move through the feelings, not try to cover them up.
And I didn't even know that that's what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? Like I would try
Yeah.
intuitive eating and I'm like I can intuitively eat for a few days and then some bad thing will happen and I blew it. You know what I mean? So I didn't even
Yeah.
recognize what I was doing, which I don't know how many people are out there, but I suspect more than we think, right?
I,
Because a lot of people are like, just intuitively eat when you're hungry,
yeah.
but there's so much more to it. And we have to uncover all the other stuff before we can even do that.
Yeah, not everybody's in their bodies and tuned into what their body actually needs. Some people need to be walked through that process.
Exactly, right? There's so much sort of healing that we need to do to even be able to be ready to intuitively eat.
So, how is releasing weight really about creating safety in the mind and the body?
What I have discovered, like through this journey, right? So it's about finding my worth and letting go, like stop overworking so hard. And then that gave me the space to really, allow myself to rest occasionally, to not have to do absolutely everything myself, which meant, letting stuff go sometimes. Sometimes balls just drop. And you know what? It's fine. And so after doing all of that, I really developed my intuition. And so I have a lot of almost conversations, like basically with channeling, but also with my body. Like I'll talk to my metabolism. Okay, what can I do to get you turned up a little? And we have long conversations. And it's like, look, I need to feel safe, right? And what this means on a body level is about making sure that, evolutionarily it got a lot of nutrients, right? There's abundant food, And when it wasn't, it would turn down your metabolism to get you through starvation. So saying to your body in the language it understands, which is with really nutritious food, food's abundant. Don't worry. Don't turn down your metabolism. And that looks like having good protein, having good fat, having a lot of different vegetable variety. So those are like the tenets of sort of what speaks, at least to my body, but I'm guessing everybody's body, really. That's what the research. I mean,
Yeah.
different people will have different levels of, like, I do need animal protein. Some people, and I think there's some genetic component there where some people do better with like full plant-based diets. But for me, my ancestry is all like very northern European, and I need some animal protein.
Yeah, I can't go too long without animal protein. I used to be able to go 3 weeks, but now that I'm in that perimenopause
Mm,
phase, I really can't go more than a week now. Like I have to have it
yeah.
in my diet. And I complained to my mom one day, like I don't understand like why I like suddenly really need meat. It's not that I was trying to be vegetarian. It was just
Yeah.
like I noticed that change, and she told me it was in our family. Like it's like nobody's able to be a vegetarian in our family.
Oh, interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
so I grew up vegetarian, and I kind of wasn't, I was never really satisfied, but I didn't put it together. And I remember in my 20s, I worked for a low carb diet researcher, and I developed all the diets, and the researcher was like, you could do this diet. And I'm like, no, I could never eat that much animal protein. So it took like something dramatic. And then, yeah, my brain is clearer and I feel full in a way that I just don't when I eat vegetarian.
Yeah.
So I try
Yeah.
to make the best choices that I can, right? I want like ethical animal
Yeah.
protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really important to me too. I noticed that you suggest that everyone should take a multivitamin, even if they don't eat well. Why is that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many changes to our food supply. And I actually wrote another book before the one that I just came out with. It wasn't, I didn't publish it. But just since the 1950s, there has been really dramatic changes to our food supply. And you truly just can't get everything you need with food alone anymore. I mean, it's a lot of changes. So we're growing different vegetables, ones that can be transported and ones that taste sweeter, right? Because consumers like sweet. Like the corn has gotten much sweeter, and that actually means there's more sugar in it. It doesn't just taste sweeter. It's changed the composition. We're picking earlier, the crops are transported, and even environmental changes. So there's more carbon dioxide, which when you go through photosynthesis, that means the plants have more starch and less protein. And then that also alters how much mineral they take in from the soil. So it's just, there's so many changes that even if you eat the most picture perfect diet that you possibly can, it's not going to give you all the nutrients that you need.
Yeah, and I feel that when I'm adjusting my diet because I notice my body needs something different, like I'll still have to supplement. I'd rather
Yeah.
not, but
Right. I mean, I know because there's lots of people who say, no, if you just eat a healthy diet. But I like did this fictitious I'm like, okay, I'm gonna invent this person. She's, huge, like she works out all the time, so she can eat as much as she wants. And like she eats the most perfect diet that I can possibly imagine. And she was still deficient in like three nutrients. There's
yeah.
just no way to do it. And I mean, nobody's eating that picture perfect diet, and very few of us are working out so hard that we can eat. I mean, back evolutionarily, we were working really hard and our food was more nutritious. Because there's also a whole philosophy that those like RDA levels, that's just to prevent deficiency, but it may be that we need actually much higher levels for optimal health.
Yeah, I've seen that with a lot of things, really. Like they only recommend enough vitamin C so you don't get scurvy, but optimally you need a lot more.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I'm not saying sky's the limit. There is too much of a good thing,
Yeah.
but we all, and I think particularly minerals, that seems to be my soapbox. I think we all probably need more minerals because
Y-
that's what's really missing in our food.
Yeah, I have to supplement with a little potassium in the morning, or I start getting all kinds of health implications. And people don't usually talk about potassium. It's usually
Hmm.
like magnesium or something,
Right. Or
but mostly,
calcium, right? We've known
yeah.
about calcium forever. That was the big one, but now magnesium. And I'm with you. I just started supplementing potassium, I don't even know, a few months ago. And because I do eat mostly animal protein and vegetable and fruit, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit limited, even though I eat a lot of vegetables, and that's what potassium comes from. But anyway, I feel better when I added the potassium
Yeah,
too.
yeah, I do too. So, what's the difference between real hunger and emotional hunger, and how can people tell the difference?
So emotional hunger comes on fast, right? You will in it, it's like almost a reaction. Oh, I've got, I'm feeling bad, and I'm either trying to mask that feeling or I want to feel better. So that's those cravings that they come on fast, and it's depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to avoid emotion, any food will do, and that's what I had. Like I could have binge eat a bowl of kale and I would have been perfectly fine, but I never would have felt satisfied. I'd still want more. And then there's like the comfort eating is when, you're craving something like ice cream and then you're trying to get to a positive. So those are different kinds of emotional eating. But like real hunger is, and you do have to be aware of your body to feel it. So, really present, really grounded. And a lot of us have been disconnected with that because of a diet history or whatever it is that we've disassociated. And it comes on really slowly, right? And when you feel the hunger, you can actually ignore it and be hungry, where you don't feel that with emotional eating. It feels really intense and you must eat. You know what I mean? Our bodies were actually designed to be hungry some chunk of the time. We actually do better. That's what all the intermittent fasting is about. When we're having a little bit of regular hunger, let me caveat that if you're under extreme stress, don't play with fasting because that's too much stress on your body.
Yes.
But if you're not, then it's a good thing to go a little bit of hunger. Your body actually shifts into healing because digestion takes a lot of energy. So it gives it a break from digestion and growth and shifts into healing.
No, that's great. Before we spoke just now, I know that you're into energy healing. So I wanted to learn more about how you do timeline healing, what it is, and how can something like a past life influence someone's eating behavior today.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of that. I mean, I've been doing timeline healing for a really long time. And as part of my working with NLP, I strengthen that. So now there's a subconscious element. But what I am finding is that there's so many fears wrapped up into why we overeat or why we binge eat or whatever is wrapped up in food. So for a while, I was looking at all emotions, trying to help people with emotional eating, but it's really coming down to fear. And one of the most powerful things
Oh.
that I'm finding is this fear of hunger. I suspect that many, if not all of us with struggles with weight have had either some sort of past life or generational trauma of starvation. And when you go back in the timeline and look to see what those unconscious learnings are, it's a really powerful shift. So instead, that sort of hoarding food or overeating food because you're really scared that the food won't be there and you'll run out. That has been a really powerful shift that I'm seeing with people.
Do you think because of what we just went through with, let's call it the cerveza sickness, but do you think that that triggered a lot of eating disorders because there was a lack of maybe certain foods in the grocery stores?
I'm sorry,
Well,
what kind of
well,
sickness?
like, well, I guess I'll just go ahead and say it and then bleep it
Oh,
out.
oh, oh, okay. I mean, I don't know. I think that was more about because I know a lot of people gained a lot of weight through. I think that was more about the fact that our society doesn't have really good support system, right? We
Oh,
were all left. We don't handle emotions particularly well because I think that's only really been allowed for one or two generations, right? Our grandparents were certainly not. I mean, at least most I mean, maybe you or someone was the exception and your grandparents were great with feelings, but I think we really only been talking about feelings and learning how to hold feelings for one generation, like
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah, I've had to work hard to teach myself. I mean, because that wasn't something I grew up with at all.
exactly, right. And I think so most of us don't really know how to hold emotions. And so that was kind of a scary time, right? We're left in these little tiny bubbles without a lot of support, with a lot of scary fear and not good ways of handling it. So, I mean, for me, I was right in the midst of my whole journey. So, I did a lot of journaling, and that's how I have learned to really hold and move through feelings. But there's so many different ways. Like, you can do shaking, like moving it through your body, or any kind of movement. Deep breathing. So, that signal, like a long, slow breath, signals to your vagus nerve, hey, all is well, right? Because if a tiger was chasing you, you wouldn't be able to take a long, slow breath. And so, there's a lot of different ways that we can be like, oh, okay, we're going to hold this. We're just going to sort of let ourselves move through this uncomfortable feeling.
I've read that wild animals will shake after they've had a stressful experience, but maybe domestic ones won't do that, and then they'll get anxieties from that. And I thought that was so interesting.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, like the purring that a cat will like that toning, that's also actually really that's another way to move emotions through. So I
Oh.
think like a cat would purr, but we can do that. I mean, we won't use whatever muscle in the throat, but like that kind of just like humming or singing, like we can even not use our voice, and that it is actually very calming. I've been playing with that a little bit.
Oh, that's really good to know. So, also, how do you use EFT, NLP, and hypnotherapy to help people release emotional patterns like binge eating or guilt?
Yeah. So I mean, some of that is what I talked about with the
Yeah.
fear, right? And sort of looking, okay, how can we reframe that in a way like, oh, okay, there was this fear of hunger, but that doesn't actually apply anymore. Now we can get food whenever we need it. And that's what I'm saying. So my timeline healing got so much stronger when I asked, like I used to sort of talk to someone's energy blockage and it would release, but it really up leveled when using NLP. That's what you do is you would ask them to, okay, relax, go back up in your timeline, and what is a learning that you can get from this experience where you were starving or didn't have enough food, and having them have the learning from their own subconscious is even more powerful. Tapping is a great way of releasing sort of the blockage. So if you're feeling like, oh, I've got an uncomfortable emotion, then going through tapping is another great way. It's sort of that's what so I should have put it on the list with all the others, the breathing and moving. So it depends. You can like find the one that works for you and or mix it up, right? Try different things depending on the situation.
Why is the concept of safety so central to food healing?
Yeah, I mean that's what I am just finding more and more and more from speaking with my body. It's all about how can you make that body safe in terms of knowing that food is abundant and
Yeah.
slowing down and triggering the vagus nerve. Okay, everything is safe. And the same thing with the subconscious, right? The subconscious is trying to protect you. That's why it developed this that if you cope with food, it developed that in your childhood. Maybe your family did that and it's generational, or maybe you somehow learned to cope with uncomfortable feelings or whatever it is with food. Um, and so by working with the subconscious, okay, is this food actually still in your best interest with your conscious desires to maybe be healthier? So asking, and you can even do this yourself, through meditation, I think is that's what I'm having these conversations with various parts of me. But the subconscious is trying to protect you through this eating. It's no longer the best way that aligns with how you want to be. So if you can find another way, I guess if you can find another way to say, hey, we are safe, but we don't need to eat through this feeling.
Yeah, I've definitely seen my own family, or some of them anyway, do that, and it's like they're mentally stuck.
Yeah, right. And so I mean that's what that I mean there's you can just close your eyes and sort of ground and go and look in your timeline or even through meditation and see if what kinds of blocks are there, like what kinds of fears are there and hey, how can is there another way that we can find where we can both get on the same page, my subconscious and my conscious.
Yeah, yeah, get in tune with your body.
Yeah.
So when you say focusing on weight loss keeps us stuck in food control, what happens when people shift towards purpose instead?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's so I think sometimes we think, okay, I want to lose weight. And we get so caught up in there, but it can be like the subconscious, which is controlling our behaviors and actions, is like 95% of our brain, but it doesn't really hear the word not, right? So if I say, don't think of an elephant, you immediately think of an elephant.
Yeah.
And then you have to like cross it off. So when we say, okay, I don't want to eat, I want to go on a diet, right? It just starts panicking about we're gonna starve. Don't eat, wait, but except you don't hear the not. So you can do it for a little while with like sheer will, but that runs out. So what you want to think about instead is why. So instead of thinking, okay, I want to stop, I want to go on a diet or I want to lose weight or I want to get healthy. Why do you want to do that? Do you want more energy to play with your kids? Do you want to go into a store and, try on all the clothes and feel amazing about your body? So by focusing on the why of all of this, it's almost like the vision beyond the vision, and then your whole body will get more in alignment. You're not like, hey, we're going to starve and won't that be fun? Because no, your subconscious is like, that does not sound like fun, and I
No.
am not on board. But when you say, oh, I want to have more energy so that I can, go dancing with my friends, then it becomes like this joyful quest rather than, this dark cave of despair.
I saw that really clearly when my children were toddlers. If I told them you don't do this, don't do that, I swear that was all that they thought about. So I had to say, well, what can you do? So let's talk about those things.
Exactly. I remember for a little while at the dinner table, I would say, "Okay, what was the best part of our day? What was the worst part of our day?" And my daughter got so into the worst part of her day that I'm like, "All right, we are
Oh.
only talking about the best part of our days now."
So, what are some common mindset traps women fall into when trying to do it all, and how do you help them release that pressure?
So many women, they're trying to juggle work and family and all of that and trying to do all of it perfectly. But nobody can really do that perfectly. So, I mean, that was part of my journey. I had to really step in, okay, I am good enough so that I could learn how to prioritize, right? Because we can only do so many things. And, so I have this whole system in the book. And I didn't even think about this. I was telling a friend and they're like, this has to go in the book. But I do this intuitively. So coming up with like 5 things. And this can be once a week or twice a week, but probably not more than that. So 5 things I'm going to focus on, like only. And then everything else is not happening that week. And then one small action to move each of those ahead. So, maybe this week I'm feeling disconnected from my kids. Now they're older. So if you have
Yeah.
little kids, probably not so much, but you know what I mean? Or maybe there's something at work I need to do. And I ideally you are always one of those 5 because so often we are not one of those 5. And then the key, so you're going to do those things as opposed to having 100 things on your list and never feeling like you got anything done, right? Because you're going to do those things. And then you have this amazing sense of accomplishment. I got the important things done. And then here's the magic, you're going to let balls drop. Like if it wasn't those 5 priorities, it drops. But you're going to get to do this again in 3 days or like that's what I said, once or twice a week you do this, like, okay, what are the 5 things I need to focus on? And I think it's really important that we take the time to feel accomplished, not just look at the endless list of things that should be done, right? So by figuring out what do I really need, like what's so important to me, then we can be so much more effective.
That's such great advice for even more than just food, honestly. Like, just because they lose their focus, they feel overwhelmed, they're scattered all over the place. Like, it's just great advice in general.
Yeah. I mean, right. I don't think it's not, I mean, a lot of the Vibrant Juicy Life, I mean, the whole point of the book, to be honest, is that it wasn't about food. So I was a high level dietitian. I mean, I was chasing, right? I was a high level dietitian who worked in nutrition research. I knew everything there was to know about food, and I was 100 pounds overweight. So, sort of what I had to find were all those other pieces because, right, I knew how to do the healthy food part, but why was I binge eating bowls of kale? Like,
How can shifting from critical to appreciative thinking change both mood and body?
oh yeah. So I mean, again, that goes back a little bit to the to what I just said with the prioritization. So when we are always focused on what we're not doing well or what we don't like about ourselves, then we get in this mindset of spiraling down and really just being negative in general, where that's just a choice that we've made, right? I remember I lived in California in my 20s, and the news there was all really, really positive in San Francisco. I don't know if it's still that way, but the news was like, we opened a nursing home, and I was like, why is this news? Like where I came from, someone got shot. That was news.
Yeah.
Well, why? How are those any different in terms of news? So the same way, in ourselves, okay, I could have handled that better. Or can we look like that's a growth opportunity and look what I did do right, or, instead of like, wow, I wish that my arm was more toned. Like, except let me look at the things that I love about myself. So these are choices that we make. And when we really choose to look at the positive aspects, it changes everything, right? It's about, the gratitude and appreciation that we have, and our whole mindset shifts, and just everything becomes better.
I'm glad you brought up that your book was more than just people who want to learn the mindset behind eating, because like what you talked about in the beginning was so relatable for all women. I have actually a birthmark that goes from my eye to the bottom of my neck. And you really can't see it anymore because it's the brown kind that fades over time. But when I was a little girl, half my face was brown. And so like I was heavily bullied. And then, you switch into that teenage mode, and then suddenly you're like objectified and everybody's judging how pretty you are. And it's alarming. Nobody really prepares you for that as a woman, and you internalize that without proper support systems anyway. You
Yeah.
internalize all that input, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm really relating to what you're saying.
And so much. I mean, right. I had acne, and I was heavy, but I think in hindsight, I think I made myself heavy in part so that people didn't see me. Do you know what I mean? So that I wasn't noticed because I didn't know how to deal with people actually seeing me. But
Yeah.
I like, so I had acne, and I was super self-conscious about that. And yeah, and that comes down to self-worth again, right? Like we by the choice to focus on what we find about ourselves beautiful, like why, right? Stepping into the worth, that's that whole piece. And that's it's such a journey. Yeah, and that's that,
Yeah.
shifting the mindset to focus on what we love. That's a whole part of the finding our self-worth, which allows all the rest of it.
Oh, that's good. Knowing your self-worth, then you naturally change your eating habits.
Well, I mean, not naturally, because some of it's habit, and right. So then we have to be like, okay, wait, because I will even still find myself every now and again, like going for a second snack at night. And I'm like, what's going on? So now it signals to me, oh, you've got a feeling here that you have to process, right? But those
Oh,
habits are dug in deep. So
yeah.
we find the self-worth, we deal with the overwhelm, and and then with all that growth, every now and again, right, we might find ourselves in that habit loop. So we have to work on shifting the habit loop. So now when I
Yeah.
see, oh, you're going for a second snack, I'm going to go sit in my chair and just see what there is in this, with my journal, and see what comes up.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
such good advice, honestly. So, what's one thing a listener can do today to begin healing their relationship with food?
one of my very favorite things, I mean, it sort of depends where they are on their journey. But I think looking at some of those fears and sabotaging habits, so, what's getting in the way, but before you can do that, maybe meditating on your on the fears and learning to hold them, right? So
Yeah.
learning to be able to sit with your fear. Whether that's taking some deep breaths and realizing that there's some fear, or, start journaling. That's how I wrote, today I am feeling, and I did that probably for a year until I didn't have to anymore because I actually would start to know how I would feel. But it's still not always intuitive. Like that second snack. Oh wait, you've got a feeling. What it is. Yeah. So I mean, I think find some way, one of those ways I mentioned, and start feeling your feelings, even the uncomfortable ones.
So, what are your favorite energy practices for somebody feeling stuck, heavy, or out of control with eating?
Yeah, I mean, I really love the timeline work I'm doing, and you can do it
Okay.
yourself. So settle
Oh,
in somewhere, and it's almost like a meditative practice, but you're it's sort of a self-guided meditative practice. And you'll be like, okay, we'll say I've got this fear of hunger. This wouldn't be one that would come up on a day, but okay, it's good enough as an example. And where did that come from? And then just looking, like going up into the air and looking out at your timeline and looking back. And I will ask my subconscious, send up a spotlight for, where this came. And I will then go back there and be like, okay, are there any learnings that I can learn here? So that it has been an amazingly transformational practice to me.
I've never thought to do that, but it sounds really good.
I mean, and tapping is great too, right? For the tapping on the acupressure pressure points, but the timeline has been really more powerful for me in terms of like a big shift in my awareness. Yeah.
If someone feels like they've tried everything, what would you say to them?
I mean, I guess it depends. Are they trying to lose weight and they've tried everything?
Yeah, yeah. Because
I
I've
mean,
definitely
one of
heard
the
that a
most
lot.
important. Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, there's so like all of this, right? So I would go back to the beginning and let's start at looking at holding uncomfortable motions and self-worth. But let me see what like a better like what's a first step. I mean, I think it comes down to there more than the nutrition. I mean, the other part that we never really talked about is all these addictive foods. So all that ultra processed foods are very, very addictive. They're almost impossible to resist. That's
Yeah.
why food manufacturers are making them because we'll buy them, but they sabotage us from our health goals. So I have found that I actually can't have those foods. It's some people might be able to have, small portions and be fine, but I cannot. So I had to get rid of them. So that might be a good first step. But I do think finding ways to hold the uncomfortable emotions might be even more important. The other piece I think that I work with people is finding that pause. So when we go to eat, just starting to build a habit where we take a moment and say, why am I eating? Maybe it's hunger, maybe it's an emotion. Like you don't even have to change anything, but starting to build that habit of just a beat. Why am I eating? And what that is doing is changing that sort of automatic eating, right? Because you just want to
Yeah.
crack in the awareness so that there's a little room for expansion. And from there, right, if building that habit, that beat of like, why am I eating? Huh? And then keep eating if you need to. But if you're like, hey, I'm eating because I, am scared of what's coming up, then maybe you could find, hey, maybe there's something that will be more satisfying. Because eating isn't actually satisfying when you keep eating.
So, what do you want women to remember when they're feeling defeated in their health journey?
I mean, just get up and keep going, right? So, one roadblock or one sabotaging moment is not the end of the journey. Carry on, just get up, keep going. To me, I think, and it's such a growth opportunity. I mean, that's because I had a lot of conversations in channeling. Like, am I helping people lose weight? No, no, I'm finding people who are struggling with food because the struggle is showing that they've got this room for expansion, right? They've got this whole journey that they get to have about finding their way out of that food struggle. So that's all. There, you're just in a food struggle, and you've got a whole journey of finding joy and growth, and from there.
Yeah, I almost 20 years ago, I quit smoking. I had actually started in my teens, and that was part of my journey because I really struggled to quit is just forgive myself, like, instead of just hanging around in that guilt, oh, I've tried this 10 times, I can't do this.
Exactly, right. You get to, right? I mean, I feel like life is this constant growth journey. And sometimes I'm like, oh, more journey. But
I don't know. The
it
times
gets
we
good again.
So I know you offer online classes and workshops on top of your book. Can you let us know where we can find you online and where we can find your book? Well, you
Yeah,
mentioned a
so
second book, so both of them.
I only have the one that published. So
Okay.
Vibrant Juicy Life is the name of my book, and it's on Amazon, or you can get it on my website, which is vibrantjuicylife.com. And I have a big program called Craving Alchemy: Heroine's Journey, which leads people through this whole journey that I went on, finding self-worth and letting go of overwhelm and nourishing, and then finding your vibrant juicy life. It's all on the website,
Okay, I'll make sure to.
vibrantjuicylife.com. Or you follow me on Instagram too, which is craving
Oh,
underscore alchemy. So that's another
okay.
one.
So is there like any last bit of advice that you'd like to give the listeners before we go?
I mean, I think it's just about remembering that you're on the journey, right? It's not hopeless. That there's on the other side, it's so much better and even amazing. So your food struggle is just a signal that there's some growth, and it's trying to tell you something. Okay, you're hungry in some way. And
Oh, that's
when
good.
you yeah, when
Because yeah,
so
it could be your soul crying out for something that you haven't tapped into yet. Yeah, that's good.
exactly, exactly. Right? I mean, so you're hungry for something. It's probably not food, but there is some piece, like we're not eating the most nutritious diet, so it could be food. That's why there's a lot of studies on different minerals showing that they help reduce cravings. So you're hungry for something, and when you figure out what it is, then all the cravings go away because you figured it out and life is better.
So I reached the end of my questions, but I'm curious, like what got you looking into like these more mystical or soulful aspects to healing? Was there like an aha moment, like, oh, I'm gonna try this and then it worked, or
So I actually had a spiritual awakening in my 20s when I lived in California. And so I have always been pretty passionate about alternative and complementary types of healing. So yeah, through my whole journey, and I worked in dietary supplements for a long time in research, which some would say is also part somewhat complementary. And so I mean, I think in part of my journey, what actually being was the transformation was both being hypnotized myself, and having all this personal development and work from divorce. So those all happened at the same time. And yeah, so I think all three of those, so the nutritional piece, which I had covered, but the subconscious work through hypnosis, and the personal development and self-love piece and working through fears that came as part of that, like all three of them are sort of, they all work together and solve the struggle so much more effectively than any of them alone.
I completely agree. I try to make a more holistic picture with everything I talk about or write about, like how is this affecting the body, the mind, the soul, again, just make a more complete picture that people can think about. Like, how does this apply to me?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, that's what people say. Oh, I only want sort of more alternative medicines and energy healing. And some people are like, no, I only want traditional. But everything is so much better when it's all integrated. Do you know what I mean? Everyone
Yeah.
has some information and learning and wisdom to share. So I think we're all meant to work together.
Yeah, that's so true. You can't do it alone. Well, thank you so much for coming on here, Juniper. So,
All right. Thank
I
you.
hope the listeners got something out of this, and you can go check out her links. I'll put that in the show notes. But no, really, I enjoyed this conversation. That was good.
Wonderful. Thank you. I enjoyed it too.
Okay, well, you have a good day, Jennifer or Juniper. Oh my goodness.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.